Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Exciting announcement for all of my listeners. I've officially opened my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse, to the public. This group is by application only, so we can keep the group high vibe and spend our time, energy, and expertise only helping those of you who truly want massive success and impact. You get live weekly trainings from me, special guest coaches, and direct access to me and my business partner for all of your questions. To learn more and apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com, click on Work With Me, and select ProjectME Posse. And of course, any questions, feel free to DM me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I am your highly under-caffeinated host, Tiffany. And so this episode's going to be extra interesting. I felt like I had to give that disclaimer because there will be some momentary pauses for me to drink my coffee. I thought I had recorded this episode. I did not. I am almost past my deadline for my producer to do his magic and make it sound amazing because we only edit for sound quality, but that still takes some time. And so we got to do what we got to do, people. Like I always say, we don't wait until we're feeling at our highest energy, at our peak state, till we're ready, till we're motivated, till we're into it to do the damn thing. Because if we did that, almost nothing would get done. We just have to do it regardless and go with it and trust that it's supposed to be that way. And looking at the title of this episode and some of my notes, The Business of Boundaries, How to Protect Your Energy and Needs with Everyone in Your Life. Based on seeing that and some of the notes I'd written for this, I'm supposed to record this under caffeinated. My energy is not supposed to be, this super high vibe, wacky, crazy Tiffany recording this one. This is supposed to be more of a raw, intimate episode. So we have to trust that sometimes, the mood we're in that mood for a very reason. Maybe we're supposed to be in that mood, that low energy, uninspired, even depressed or anxious, scared, whatever it is, to write that blog post, to get on video, to create that, piece of content. Maybe we're supposed to be in that exact mood at that exact time because that's what's going to connect with our ideal client the most and impact the most people. So I want you to trust that at any given time, whatever state you're in, you're supposed to be in it, and don't use it as an excuse to not show up. Show up regardless. Hold please while I have a sip of my coffee. I wish there were like sound effects like they did in like the early days of radio when radio first came out and they had put all sorts of weird things up to the microphone. I wish I knew how to like have a sound effect of me obnoxiously sipping my coffee because you guys probably can't hear this, right? All you can hear is my after effect. Okay. Here's the deal. This is one of the hardest things that I've had to learn in my life, and I'm still practicing it. It doesn't go away. It does get easier with time, and it's this whole boundary thing. When you're someone, and I know a lot of you are wired like me, because you know what I always say, like attracts like, we're overgivers. We operate from the heart. We're service-based entrepreneurs. We're service-based people in general. And, that can be a slippery slope. That can lead you to being a people pleaser, an overgiver. And on one hand, you're like, that can seem very noble, and that can seem godly, and that can seem spiritual, and that can seem like, oh, what a wonderful, generous person. But not when it goes too far down the path of people pleasing and overgiving. Because what happens then is now that's not out of service and love. That's actually coming from fear. Now, this blew my mind when I finally grasped. That's a really hard word to say. Grasped. I can't say it. You know what I'm talking about. I told you this was going to be interesting. When I finally understood and understood the concept of true service, when you're in true service to someone, this could be your own child. This could be to a friend. This could be to a stranger. This could be to a charity. This could be to an institution. This could just be to the public in general. When you're of true service, it is coming from a space of pure love. You are not expecting anything in return. In fact, you're not even kind of secretly expecting a thank you or gratitude in return, or a pat on the back, or acknowledgement, or a shout out, or someone to tag you, or someone to write you a letter or a DM, or to tell, Aunt Betsy Sue, how incredible and generous you are with your time, or for your boss to give you, an excellent review, mid-year review. When you're truly coming from service, there are no expectations. You're doing it from a pure place. Now, what ends up happening is so many of us, we overserve, we overgive, we people please, and we're doing it innocently. Okay. I'm not saying any of you, myself included, are doing it necessarily with this like calculated agenda. It comes from having tarnished or broken self-worth. So somewhere along the way in childhood, it could have been as a result of a relationship. It could have been as a result of your first boyfriend. It doesn't have to be a marriage or something like that. It could have come from also being bullied. I've shared with you guys before, I was bullied in middle school. I mean, I had severe abuse during my childhood and my teens. So obviously there's that as well. It could be from having a really like one of those like bosses that just mind fucks you. And a lot of people have had that. It could just, it doesn't have to be from something of the magnitude of like my story is what I'm trying to say. It can be from being raised by a parent who is very, very sweet, but passive and never really present. My father, and I'm doing a lot of work around my dad right now. Oh no, I'm feeling the tears. See what I mean? I was meant to record this without me being all like jacked up on life and coffee. I'm doing a lot of work and processing right now around my father. I've done a lot of healing work, trauma work, you name it, around my mom. But around my dad, I've done a little, but my dad was the passive one. I mean, I feel very comfortable even saying he was a doormat. He wasn't there for me, but it was in a different way. And I feel, obviously, I'm supposed to be saying this because I asked God to speak through me when I recorded this, because we know I wasn't, so to speak, on point when I pressed record. So this is just flowing. But my dad was passive, a sweetheart, a man of few words. He was affectionate. He was patient, but he never asked me how I was. He never asked me if I had a boyfriend. He might have asked me like when I mean, for the love of God, I started working at 8, but I mean like when I had conventional jobs, that's a whole nother episode. But when I had like conventional jobs, like worked at, who remembers Musicland Sam Goody at the mall? That was like my first official, job, like for like a bigger corporation. And then I went to work for Starbucks for so many years. Oh my God. freaking loved working at Starbucks. Anyway, so my dad probably did ask me, right, how my job was. I'm sure he did. I don't remember though. So he obviously didn't ask enough for me to remember. He was there, but it was almost like his body was there, but it was a shell of a person. And it was very confusing for me. It was very boring to be around him. My dad had me at 50, by the way, you guys, fun fact. And he didn't have any other kids, which when he died, for those of you who've gone through this process, when he died, you actually have to, in the US, you have to put something in like the newspaper, because if there's like a will, you know, if someone left you anything, because it's basically saying like, hey, if anyone else wants to make claim that they're entitled to some of this, and you're a long lost sibling or descendant of this person who's passed, you know, speak now or forever hold your peace. I was actually scared. And I want to say, my lawyers who are listening, feel free to correct me on this, but I feel like it could have even been like, it was like a 60 or 90 day waiting period or something like that. And I remember going, there is no way this man does not have some child somewhere. My dad traveled often to Asia. He was absolutely enamored with the Asian culture and did a ton of business in Hong Kong. And it makes so much sense. Not to go off on a tangent, but it makes so much sense to me as I'm doing this healing work around him, why he fit in so well with that culture. I went to Hong Kong last year. That was my second time, but it was my second time really having a more intimate exposure to the culture. And I hired a private, I'm going to start crying again. I hired a highly recommended like private tour guide, and it made so much sense with what she shared, why my dad finally felt like, why he went there all the time. I'm talking once a month, sometimes once every 3 weeks. Yes, he had, you know, he did a lot of business there. He was in importing, exporting, but he spent so much time there. He felt like he belonged in that culture, right? He didn't feel like he belonged in the American culture where, you know, as those of us know, Americans can be very loud, obnoxious, opinionated, annoying. I could go on and on with that. Where was I going with this? Anyway, I felt like I needed to say this because some of you were probably raised with, whether it was a mom, a dad, a grandparent, someone who wasn't necessarily like, they're abusive, they weren't there for me, they were mean, they were horrible, they were an alcoholic, they were a drug addict. They just weren't emotionally available or present. And that in of itself can often cause us to take on traits of a codependent personality. And I know that can be a very, so to speak, dirty word. I mean, no one wants to be labeled as a codependent. It's like, great. But believe me, it's probably one of the most common diseases walking around on this planet, even more than addiction, is the addiction of people, places, and things. So how I like to define codependency is, we have a need, and I say we because I'm a codependent. I'm in recovery for a codependency. It truly is a disease and it will kill you. It almost killed me. And I'll get into that. But I do a ton of work around it. But I have to manage it. Just like someone who's an addict, even if they stop the substance or gambling or the thing or whatever they're addicted to, you have to manage that addictive disease within you for your entire life. You'll relapse, you'll die. Codependency is no different. So how I see codependency is, we have an innate need for being validated by things outside of ourselves. So we need someone else or something else to validate that we're worthy, that we're good enough. So some people in codependency, when I say it's an addiction of people, places, and things, I've worked with clients who are just lovely people who make great impact on the world, but they're addicted to actually doing for others. So they pour into others so they don't have to look at themselves or be with themselves. And a lot of these people, you'll find them, heads of nonprofits, running charities, doing a lot of service work in the church. You'll see so much of this. But behind the scenes, they're depleted, they're angry, they're frustrated, their marriage is falling apart, they're snappy with their kids, they have health issues because too much of even a good thing is toxic, right? Too much water, for a fact, is toxic. In fact, that's yet another story where when I was high in my exercise addiction, it was a really big thing going on about like, I'm going to get the ratio wrong, but it was like the ratio was insane, like an ounce of water for every pound or something like that. And of course I took it to an extreme. Like if an ounce is better than if an ounce is good, 5 ounces is better. And I went really far with it. And I mean, I'm talking like I might have had 3 gallons of water a day. Well, you lose your electrolytes and salts. And that was part of how I passed out while running full bore speed on a treadmill and ended up in the ER. Thank you. So too much of even water is toxic. So too much giving is also toxic because it's not coming from a true place of love and service. It's not grounded from love and service. So this is how all of it happens. And I know those of you listening right now are going, okay, I can see where I do this, right? Like, how many of you have agreed to help a friend move or help a friend rewrite their resume or something, and you really didn't want to, but you kind of felt like you had to? Like, well, that's what friends do. If you're a good friend, if you're a supportive friend, this is what you do. So I just need to do it. That is not being of service. That's not for fun and for free. And what I mean by fun and for free of expectation, free of resentment, free of conditions. And what I mean by fun is listen, no one's like, yay, I get to help my best friend move, right? Like if any of you are excited to move people, you need to start a damn moving company. It's more like fun. What I mean by is in your heart and soul. So before I agree to doing anything, taking a client, helping a client with something that normally that's not what my services are for. Helping a friend, a significant other, even a stranger, even someone who, I have a story of, that happened the other day in the parking lot with an elderly woman. And wow, did that really test me? It was God testing me for sure. Where I was like, well, God, who wouldn't help an elderly woman? And we're in a pandemic. And but I'll get to that. Well, hopefully I will. Hopefully I don't forget because I'm undercaffeinated. Let me write a note. I'm putting old woman on here so I remember. Old woman story. Okay. But where the fun and for free comes from is, for example, okay, I'll use my best friend Tracy as an example. Let's say, and I'm just making this up, so don't go, oh, Tracy has a storage unit. I have no idea if she has a storage unit. She probably doesn't. But let's say she had some kind of a big storage unit that had a whole bunch of stuff in it that she's been like blowing off for years or something. And she's like, and she was brave enough to ask me, her best friend, for help, because it's not always easy to ask for help, and asked me, could you fly out here or drive here and help me empty out this unit? Like, for whatever reason, I have so much resistance around it, and just feel really good to have help and have you there. And I still wouldn't automatically go, yes, I've got you, girl. Even though she's like my ride or die, I would still pause, and I would want her to do the same for me. I would still pause, even if it was me taking like a deep breath and it took 3 seconds. I would still pause and do a gut check. If I say yes to this, is it for fun and for free? Meaning, expecting not her to say thank you in return, have this immense gratitude for me doing it. Will I enjoy the process of helping her because I care so much about her and my attitude will be in a fun place because I'm operating out of service and love? Or will I be miserable and grouchy because it's 1,000,000 degrees in Arizona and I'll be pissed at myself for agreeing to do it and I'll bring bad energy to the whole thing and then be extra resentful if she doesn't express her gratitude or, buy homegirl a dinner? Do you see what I'm saying? So I do pause, and I want to teach you guys how to do that. This relates to business and in your personal life. It relates to all things, whether money is being exchanged or not. I often find it's really hard for people to say no if money's being exchanged, because part of you is like, God, I don't want to turn down that money because there's a scarcity mindset, right? Like I need that money, or I should take that money, or who rejects money? And if I reject money, I'm going to block my abundance. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that goes on our brain with money because it's such a powerful energy. And the other area where people have a hard time saying no are with like friends and family, like with loved ones, because you don't want to let them down. You don't want them to be mad at you. You don't want them to leave you. You don't want them to talk badly about you, think badly about you. Those are really the two areas. So one thing is take a pause in the moment, even if it's like a deep breath. Now, in the beginning, when I started doing this, that pause in the moment was not long enough. I was such a codependent people pleaser overgiver. That wasn't long enough for me. Now, most of the time it's long enough. So the other thing you can say is, you know what, if it's okay with you, can I get back to you on that later tonight or tomorrow? That's all. And say it in a friendly way. You're not saying no, you're not saying yes, you're buying yourself time to pause versus react. What happens when we react? Reaction comes from fear. Reaction comes from scarcity, which scarcity comes from fear. Reaction comes from a feeling of lack, which is grounded in fear. So I don't want you to react. I want you to actually assess and decide, is this for fun and for free? So you're buying yourself time. And those of you who are in the beginning stages of needing to say no more often, you're going to need some time to like work through all the drama that goes on in your head. In your head and your body, where you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. How am I going to tell them I don't want to do this? They're going to be mad at me. Last year they helped me move, and now I'm saying I can't help them. And oh my God, they know that, they want money. I mean, let me tell you something. When you start, if you have money, those of you have cranking in some cash, let me tell you. And if you haven't yet been in a state where you're cranking in cash yet, people are going to ask you for money. Just wait. That's one of my episodes. And I say, what happens when you go from making, where I was at like 17,000 a year, and then you're at 60,000, then you get to six figures. Like as soon as you're at six figures, people ask you for money. Now you're at multiple six figures. Now even strangers ask you for money. Now you hit the 7-figure mark. Animals even will start asking you for money. You have to learn how to say no, or you're going to lose yourself. And then you're also going to lose a lot of money. I mean, remember, I hit 7 figures, $1 million in my bank account by the time I was 30. Within 3 months, I lost almost everything I'd worked so hard for. Lost almost all of it by me not pausing, by me feeling like I had to say yes because, people needed money. Charities needed money. People were struggling. People I knew from high school. I mean, everyone came out of the woodwork and wanted money. And I was like, well, God, I'm not struggling. And now I have money. Isn't that what good people do? When you have a lot of money, you're supposed to give back, and it becomes a real mind fuck. Well, guess what? Not if it's not for fun and for free. Not if it's coming from a place of true service and love. If it's coming from I have to, I should, I ought to, or this is what good people do. This is what generous people do. This is what men are supposed to do. This is what ladies are supposed to do. It's coming from any of that, then you can't do it. You can't do it. So I want you to buy yourself time saying, let me get back to you on that. Let me think about that. Here's another one. I just need to check a few things in my calendar. I had something planned. I just need to check on a couple things. There's a lot of things you can say to buy yourself time, and you really need to check in with your body. Your brain and your heart even are going to lie to you. Especially when you're really learning how to do this. If you're my people pleaser, overgiver, codependent, there's lots of lies going on that are going to sound very believable. This is why it's a disease, because your disease is an operation. Your drug of choice are people, places, and things. You're getting your love and your kudos and your validation and your worth by things outside of yourself. People and things outside of yourself. I'm a good person because I volunteer more than any other mom at the school. I'm a good person because I'm putting my dreams aside to raise my children, and I'm helping, and I'm helping support my husband. I'm a good person because whenever anyone needs anything from me, I'm there, and everyone knows that about me. And that makes me feel good about myself. Yeah, it makes your ego feel good about itself. But I guarantee you, and you guys may have not admitted this to anyone. You may have not even admitted this to yourself yet. I guarantee you, it is a very crumbly foundation because you don't get a thank you or the appreciation you wanted. You get resentful. It's like, oh my God, I did this and I brought all this over to help her set up the party, and she didn't have the common courtesy to say thank you. Or, man, I helped him out with this, and I took his kids there, and I fixed my friend's car, and now all I need is someone to help me haul this trailer somewhere or help me do something in the garage, and they're not available. Well, fuck them. That's called resentment. And you won't have that resentment if you truly did it for fun and for free, if you truly did it from your heart. So I want to tell you, because I said I would remember, so thank God I wrote it down. I want you guys to hear a real life example. So I don't know if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. It's kind of irrelevant. I was in the parking lot of this health food store here. I think they're across the US, called Sprouts. And we all know if there's a good song going on, I stay in the car, I sing it. I dance, especially with everything still being locked down here in California, or re-locked down, I should say. It's like, it makes me feel like I'm out in society or I'm doing something. Makes me feel a sense of freedom in some way. And so I was in my car longer than probably a normal person, because there was really a good there was a really good DJ set going on. I'm like, I'm feeling this. I'm vibing this. Okay. So then I get out, and of course I forget my damn mask, because who wants to wear a mask anyway? But you can't get served here without a mask. And I know that's a whole controversial topic with people, but they won't let you in. So I play by the rules. So I forgot my mask, but I didn't realize I forgot it. So I was like 10 steps in the car. I'm like, oh, damn it. I forgot my mask. So I go back to get the mask, and I was the parking spot one over from the handicap parking. And there was a lady. I'm like, Lord have mercy. How did she pass her driver's license test? Good Lord. That old. And she wanted me to help her get her oxygen tank. I wasn't quite clear what she wanted, but it was something involving her oxygen tank that was heavy, that's on wheels, that was in her trunk, because her son was supposed to, he was supposed to put it in the car for her, didn't. I don't know. She had a whole story. And I was like, okay. And I like clarified. I'm like, so you have an oxygen tank in the trunk and you need me to get it out. And she also wanted help putting it on. I still wasn't really clear what she wanted or needed. My entire body was stiff. My entire body. And she was not like a mean old lady or anything. My entire body was stiff. And because of the work I've done, and because I check in with myself, and because I've trained myself, don't just trust your brain and your heart, Tiffany, because your brain and your heart are like hardwired to be this like overgiver, people pleaser. So if your body, when you listen to it, if your body has resistance, it gets stiff, your heart starts racing, you start breathing heavy. There's so many different reactions we can have, but my whole body felt stiff. And so I bought myself time in the pause, okay? Like I'm teaching you guys, even though this lady mentioned a damn oxygen tank. Now, she didn't have perceived labored breathing. I'm not a medical professional, but she wasn't in distress. That's a whole nother story. You know, that's a different deal if that's the case. She wasn't in distress. So I said, one moment, I need to get my mask. Number one, right? She's of higher risk. So I go, hold on a second. I need to get my mask, to make sure like you're safe. But it bought me time. And believe me, and my car was just right next to her car, but I took my damn time. I even pretended like I couldn't find it in my car, which is fine. Because I'm doing it for me. I had to take a moment to pause to check in with myself of, okay, my body's having a reaction. But my mind and my heart are saying, Tiffany, this woman is, God knows how old she is. And she has an oxygen tank she needs. And you're going to kill her if you don't help her. And I go, hold on. And it doesn't take long. So don't panic on giving these lines to people or these things you need to say to people to buy yourself time and thinking they're going to be annoyed with you or whatever. We think it takes us a long time to process stuff like this. It really doesn't, especially when you honestly check in and you're listening to your body. I didn't feel comfortable doing it, but that's the bottom line. And I was like, okay, what can I do that would feel of service and coming from love to help this woman? Is there anything I can do for her that would be for fun and for free? So that's your next thing you can ask yourself. Again, this goes for people that you already know. This goes for strangers. This goes for people who pay you. This goes for you're an employee and you're being paid. That doesn't mean you have to fucking say yes to everything, right? You've got to do it with grace and you need to check in. And if it's not in your job description, that doesn't mean the answer is no. Oh my God, please don't ever say that to an employer. People are like on the chopping block with me. If they're like, that's not in my job description. It's like, okay. But you still have to check in with yourself. And so ask yourself the question, what can I do that's for fun and for free for this woman? And there might not be anything for somebody. There might be nothing. It might just be pleasantly saying, I'm not able to do that for you. You're going to need to ask someone else. And that's okay too. You might feel like you sound like the worst person on the planet. But what's worse is you operating out of integrity and operating out of fear. Nothing good comes when we operate out of fear. You might not have an immediate consequence of operating out of fear. Or you might. I've had many immediate consequences operating out of fear. But there's a buildup over time where you're sucking and draining your own energy and your life force, and you end up exhausted, depleted, burnt out with health issues, resentful, bitchy, a martyr. Not good, people. Not good. So I was like, no, I already knew I wasn't going to, whatever this whole thing, oxygen tank setup, getting it out of her trunk and helping her put it on. I don't know how to do that. I'm not an idiot. I know it's not hard, but I'm just not comfortable. I wasn't comfortable, and I didn't know why I wasn't. And instead of sitting there judging myself and shitting myself, I chose to trust my body. So you have to choose to trust your body, even if your natural instincts, it's going against everything in your natural instincts. This is going to sound crazy for some of you, but our natural instincts does not mean it's necessarily the healthiest choice or the highest integrity choice. It's a habit and a learned behavior we've done for so long because that's what we felt we had to do to get validated, to get seen, to get heard, to get adored, to get love, to keep people around. It's very, very cunning and baffling and tricky, which is why I don't recommend you trying, if you're someone who knows you are like deep in the thick of that whole people pleasing thing, I don't recommend you try to untangle yourself from that alone. It would be almost impossible. This is something I end up working on with my private clients because since, again, like attracts like, since I'm an overgiver, right? Even though I've done a lot of work and I manage it really well, I still end up attracting, right, a former version of myself. So I have to address this with a lot of my private clients because they come to me so depleted and frustrated and nothing is working and I don't have the time, and my husband or my wife, my significant other doesn't believe in what I'm doing. I never follow through with anything I'm going to do, even though I want to do all these things, and then I don't have focus. When we start peeling it all back, a lot of it is because you are overgiving and you are overextending yourself from a place of fear, from a place of force, from a place of obligation, from a place of fog. And if you haven't heard me say this before, if you're in the fog, it stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. If you're doing something out of the fog, this is not from true service and love. Would you really want someone doing something for you, attending your kid's birthday party, going to a concert, helping you cut your hair, looking over your website, helping you move, whatever it is, helping you reach something at the grocery store? Would you really want someone else doing something for you out of a place of fear, obligation, or guilt versus genuine wanting to out of a place of service and love, expecting zero in return? I don't think so. And let me tell you, I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end. We can feel it. If you're present, I didn't always used to feel it, but now that I'm very present and aware and woke, so to speak, I can feel when someone is doing something or offering something to me where it's out of fear, obligation, or guilt, and it doesn't feel good. This is where you guys start thinking like, ew, like this person kind of feels gross or annoying or pushy or salesy in the business world. That's because they're operating out of fear. They're not operating out of true integrity and service and love, and they might not even know it. Some of them do know it, right? People who are like scammers and those kind of people, right? Narcissists, they know it. But a lot of people don't know it. They just don't. They don't know it. They're coming out of the wrong place of where it's rooted in. Okay, so back to the story. I was still dreading telling this woman. I mean, God, she had to have been like 95. I still dreaded telling her no because I'm hardwired from birth as like this, as a codependent, that my job is to serve others above all else, that other people's needs are supposed to come ahead of mine. This is what I was taught and modeled. And so were many of you, especially as a woman, not to say men aren't also trained this way too. I've met many men, I've coached many men who are trained this way. But there's another society component, right? That when a woman says no, you're a bitch. You're a bitch, you're rude, you're mean, you're cold. But when a man says no, it's like there's respect. It's a weird, different vibe. So I was like, I'm going to say no, not only to an elderly woman in a pandemic, but it has to do with a freaking oxygen tank. Listen, I knew God was up there, kind of like doing that like smirky emoji smile, kind of like, let's see how you do, Tiff. I'm testing you and see how far you've grown in your people pleasing and codependency. And I'm like, ugh. And I said, as far as I understand, you need help getting this oxygen tank out of your trunk and putting it on, right? And then she starts down a whole story path. She never really answered me and said, I don't feel I'm the best person to help you with it. But what I can do is I'm going to find someone who can help you. Does that sound good? And she just said, okay. She didn't care. And I had to not care if I sounded like a bitch. But I mean, as I just said it to you guys, did that sound like a mean, horrible, cold, bitchy person? I would imagine not, right? There was a little part of me that was like, oh God, I'm going to sound like a fucking crazy person going up to somebody else for not being able to do this. But I have to not care. This is part of the zero fucks I teach you guys. I have to honor myself above all else because it is not an integrity. It is not doing God's work if you are operating out of fear, obligation, or guilt. It's just not. Perhaps I wasn't the one who was meant to help her. How about that? Perhaps it was supposed to be someone else. So a guy had just parked, I heard his truck because it was loud, like a pickup truck kind of across. And he looked like he was getting something out of the passenger seat of the car. I don't know why. It could have been just because he was there. But I was like, I'm asking this guy. For whatever reason, I had a gut instinct, like it needs to be like a physically strong man to help this woman. No idea why I felt that. Didn't matter. I trusted it. And I went up to him and I said, excuse me, I don't mean to bother you. This elderly lady over here, she needs help lifting her oxygen tank out of the trunk and like setting it up. And I'm not best equipped to do that. Is it something you'd be willing to help her with? He was like, absolutely. And I could tell by his energy, it was for fun and for free for him too. And not that it'd be my responsibility if it wasn't, but he was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And he didn't even bother locking his truck. He walked over, no big deal. Well, guess what? And I didn't stand there, but I walked across the street and I could see from where, I was at in the outside of the store. I don't know why. Maybe God wanted me to see it. I wanted to witness. There was part of me that was curious, like, why wasn't I supposed to do this? Well, it turned out like one of the wheels of this thing was like wonky or broken off. And this guy went and got a tool from his truck and got the wheel back on for her. Oh, I'm going to cry. Now we're at third time now. He got a tool from his truck and fixed the wheel on her oxygen tank. I wasn't supposed to be the one to help her. And for whatever reason, God wanted me to stand outside Sprouts and witness this from afar for confirmation. And I got it. And that's why I felt it was so important to share that story. I wasn't supposed to help her. We are not in charge, people. We forget. And that's what's funny about the whole people-pleasing codependency thing. When we say yes, when we really mean no, right? Is we're playing a form of God. Like it's actually very egotistical, grandiose. it's like, well, I must be the one who's supposed to help them. I am the best equipped. They asked me. It's me, 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 me. It's actually very egotistical versus trusting. If we aren't feeling it's for fun and for free, perhaps that's the universe saying you aren't the best fit to assist in this situation, to serve in this situation. It's meant for somebody else. So I want you guys to give yourself permission to do that pause so that you're not coming out of a reaction. Remember, when you're reacting, it's from fear. It's from the negative committee in your brain. It's from all sorts of years and years of gunk inside of you. And trust your body. And I don't care if it's money. When I look at my applications for my 2-month private business coaching, sometimes the application is filled out great. The person has written all the right things that I look for. And I'll go check like their social media and, stuff like that. Something in my body says you're not supposed to help. This is not your person. This is not your ideal client. You're not supposed to help them. And I choose to trust that. Now, I didn't always used to trust that. I'd be like, well, God, this person sounds great. This is an ideal client. It'd be stupid for me to not get on a call with them. I could lose, money. This could be a wonderful person to work with. I choose to trust it because I operate out of abundance. And I trust that what I'm supposed to have is being brought to me. And if we're saying yes to stuff that we really mean no to, or we say yes to things that truly don't feel good, you're blocking the stuff that's coming in that really feels good. So I want you to just and I don't want you to take a bat out and harshly judge yourself, but just take a look at in your life where you're saying yes, where you mean no. It could be like you cleaning your house. You don't have the bandwidth for it, and you really want to hire someone to clean your house, but you're afraid to say something to your husband because, he's a cheap ass. Or you guys are saving for something or being careful with money, or you start judging yourself. Well, I can do it. I'm just tired. Just because you can, that doesn't mean you're supposed to. So then you don't state to him, I'm going to look for someone to clean the house. I need to spend my time doing other things or whatever. You're afraid to do it because you don't want to upset him. You don't want to be a quote unquote, whatever your belief system is, a good wife would clean. That's a waste of money, whatever stuff that comes up. If you are not following through with even delegating tasks that you're not doing for fun and for free, I'm telling you right now, you're blocking your abundance in every which way. You're blocking your abundance of energy, your abundance of time, your abundance of creativity, clarity, cash, all of it. So it's really important that I want you guys to do this exercise. Something else that will help you is, I don't know how many of you guys are aware of this because there's a reason I call it the secret posse, but I have a really cool, I don't want to call it a newsletter, but I guess that's the best way to put it, like an e-newsletter that I send once a week that has amazing mindset exercises, journaling exercises, abundance tips and tricks and shifts in there, affirmations, and it's free. So all you have to do is go to projectmewithtiffany.com/secret posse, projectmewithtiffany.com/secret posse. It's also in the link in bio on my Instagram at projectmewithtiffany. So just go to my Instagram at ProjectMeWithTiffany. It's in the link in bio. You can also DM me and ask me for it. But it's once a week. You won't get that information anywhere else from me. And it's bite-sized chunks. Plus, I use really funny GIFs and memes, so it'll make you laugh. But it's not some long form written thing. It's meant for you to literally look at in 30 seconds or less and get a vibe, smile, but also go, okay, that's a really cool tweak or really small exercise that I can do That's going to help me make room and allow and attract and welcome in and receive more abundance in my life. So that sounds interesting to you. Go to projectmewithttiffany.com/secret posse. You guys love this episode. Go write a 5-star written iTunes review and allow me to share my appreciation back and treat you to a coffee drink of your choice or a smoothie of your choice. All you have to do is write the damn review in iTunes and then DM me on Instagram at ProjectMeWithTiffany. Make sure you put your name or your Instagram handle in your iTunes review, because then when you DM me, just say, I just wrote you, a podcast review, thanks so much or whatever. Then I'll go verify that the review is there. And then I will, with such gratitude and for fun and for free, genuinely, for fun and for free, treat you to a specialty coffee drink of your choice or a smoothie or celery juice or whatever of your choice in my appreciation back. I love reading those reviews, featuring those reviews. I share them with my team so we can all be reminded at the good that we're doing and the service that we're doing. And even on the bad days where I'm under caffeinated, why it's so important to do it regardless. Your reviews really, really help and keep the show going and growing. So if you want to be of service and it feels fun and for free for you, and it feels really good to you, please go leave that 5-star written iTunes review and allow me to treat you in return. Wishing you guys great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.